this one down.
Roll that one down too. Hey, don't roll the window up. Don't roll the window up.
Okay.
Do not roll the window up.
Do not
Unlock the doors now. Unlock the doors now.
door.
Unlock the doors now. Open the door now. Open the door now. Open the door now.
We turn now to House Speaker Mike Johnson, who delivered remarks earlier today, but he didn't comment on Arizona's near-total abortion ban. Let's bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien. He's joining me now from Capitol Hill for more. So, Jay, we know that you were in the room where Mike Johnson spoke and asked about the ban in Arizona. What did he have to say about that?
So he doesn't bring it up in the room there, Morgan. He doesn't take the question on it. And then, of course, he comes out here to the hallway outside where he holds the press conference and starts walking back to his office. And the question I asked him was, does he believe that he is aligned with former President Trump on this issue of abortions? Because putting aside the Arizona ban, although it is very much related to this, former President Trump had said that he believes abortion should be an issue taken up by the states and there should not be a federal abortion ban. And he got serious pushback from a number of conservatives, Lindsey Graham among them, a staunch Trump ally typically, saying that they believe that Trump was wrong, that they believe that there should be some kind of national abortion legislation. We know that Mike Johnson is deeply conservative. He's also deeply religious. He's deeply anti-abortion. And so it's curious where he will land on this eventual issue. Does he want to break with Trump and say that this is an issue that the Congress should take up? Or does he align himself with Trump and say that this is an issue that the state should take up, with Trump making that clear political calculus that this is such a potent election year issue that he doesn't want to go out on the political limb and say that there should be some kind of national abortion legislation? Morgan.
Yeah, and we'll see if he actually speaks on this. And Jay, while I have you, House Speaker Johnson also mentioned the motion to oust him filed by Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Where does that stand, and what did he say about that?
So Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't taken the procedural step necessary to force a vote to oust Johnson, but she's taken the first step. She described it as a warning shot against Johnson. And since she made that quote unquote warning shot, she's only upped the pressure on the speaker and upped her criticism of him for averting a government shutdown, for instance, by working with Democrats, by potentially bringing Ukraine aid to the floor, though it's an open question if he actually does bring Ukraine aid to the floor. We know that Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene will meet today, not long from now. They have not spoken over the last 2 weeks when Congress has been out on recess, but they will meet. Johnson saying that he believes ousting him would be, of course, unproductive. It would throw the House back into chaos like when McCarthy was ousted and they went those 22 days without a Speaker of the House and the House floor was paralyzed. He also got a question as to whether or not he's talked to former President Trump about this issue, the leader of the Republican Party, about potentially trying to help him if Marjorie Taylor Greene does go forward with trying to oust him. Johnson says he's not going to talk about any kind of conversations he's had with the former president. And so the question hanging over Mike Johnson is, can he and Marjorie Taylor Greene put their differences to bed in this one-on-one meeting this morning, or does Marjorie Taylor Greene continue to be a thorn in Johnson's side over the course of his speakership?
Yeah, Jay, and I know that you'll be tracking that meeting. Let's talk Speaker Johnson. We know that he delayed the impeachment trial of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to next week. That's when that's set. Why was that done? What does it mean for the Senate?
It was a political calculus on the Speaker's part, it appears, Morgan. The Senate flies out on Friday. They don't work the 5 days that you and I work. And so there were Republican senators who had said to Johnson, we know from our sources, that they wanted...
In the last hour, 6 former Mississippi officers were sentenced to 15 to 45 years in prison on state charges in the assault and torture of 2 black men. The officers pleaded guilty to charges including hindering prosecution, burglary, home invasion, and aggravated assault.
Now, this all comes after the group, which called themselves the Goon Squad, also pleaded guilty to separate federal charges last year, and they were sentenced to terms of 10 to 40 years in prison. NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar is live outside the courthouse in Brandon, Mississippi for us this afternoon. Priya, walk us through the details of the state sentences these men are facing and how this connects to what they've already been convicted of federally.
Yeah, that's right. These 6 law enforcement officers actually pleaded guilty to all of both the federal and the state charges. Most of them were felonies. As you mentioned, home invasion, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, aggravated assault. This all stems from an incident that happened back in January of last year where a white neighbor in Rankin County called a sheriff's deputy and said that she was concerned about 2 black men who were entering a white woman's home. At that point, this deputy mobilized what they called the Goon Squad because they prided themselves on using excessive force, went to that home, entered without a search warrant, and then proceeded to brutally torture these men for a period of 90 minutes, physically, sexually, and psychologically abusing them. And once things had gotten too far, one of those 2 black men ended up shot in the mouth. The law enforcement officers realized they had to cover it all up. So they planted methamphetamine and a gun, according to court records, and actually charged the men with drug possession. But of course, since then, things have been reversed, and now these men are facing their own jail sentences.
And the 2 victims in this case, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, they filed a $40 million civil lawsuit against the Rankin County Sheriff's Office last year. What are you hearing from them? Have they spoken today? Have their families spoken out?
Yeah, we heard from the victims and their families, and they called the sentences today monumental, especially since what the state was recommending, which was actually half of what the judge ended up imposing today. They did deliver victim impact statements inside of the courtroom through their attorney, Malik Shabazz. Let's take a listen to the words of Eddie Parker, one of those 2 victims.
My life was not perfect, but it was mine. I doubt if I'll ever experience it again. I wish I didn't have to experience the memory of this torture session, but I can't do that either. I can't erase my memories, but I will struggle to live on.
And so Vicki and Ellison, now everyone from the courtroom actually moved over to the Rankin County Sheriff's Department because they're calling on the Sheriff Brian Bailey to resign. They say there are systemic problems in the sheriff.
Thank you, Harris. There's an 18-year-old American from northern Idaho under arrest accused of planning to support ISIS with a series of terror attacks against churches in his state. He's from Coeur d'Alene, and Chris Swecker is a former FBI assistant director. And Chris, you're perfect for the topic. Good morning to you. Apparently, he wrote the following, all right? Alexander Mercurio is his name. He's now 18 years old. The plan is basically this: lie to my dad and say I'm going on a walk, leave, walk to a park, send the Baya or the pledge video, delete all the social media on my phone, and then walk to the nearest church. Stop close by the church, equip the weapons, storm the temple, kill as many as possible before they inevitably scatter, then burn the temple to the ground and flee the scene, then move on to the next church. Rinse and repeat for all of 21-plus churches in the town until killed. All right, you work for the FBI. Is this a hard guy to get, or is he easy?
Well, not to diminish the work of the FBI, but these kind of self-radicalized, prototypical lone wolves, you know, here in the heartland of America are not hard to spot. I mean, he posted that, or he posted him, you know, to various people on the internet, a lot about what he was thinking and what he was planning, and very easy to get an undercover FBI agent or a cooperator in the dialogue with him, and then kind of follow his journey and maybe even sort of lead him down that direction and cross that bridge between sort of dangerous talk to dangerous action.
Yeah, I guess what
again,
I was wondering.
Not diminishing the FBI.
Yeah, Chris, yeah, no tolerance policy, right? How do you know he's serious or if he's just a nut?
Well, you don't take the chance. I mean, we've had too many mass shootings with young people, with mentally disturbed individuals, and there's a tipping point where the FBI has to move. But, Bill, I'd rather, you know, as good as as a job as the FBI did on this case, I want to hear about some broader strategies to deal with probably the greatest threat of our lifetime. And it stems partly from the open border, where terrorists are streaming across that border. And I want to hear about the FBI surging resources, all the agencies surging resources at the border to interview every special interest alien that comes across that border and develop strategies to catch the active cells in the United States. They're in here now. And it's nice to catch this lone wolf. It's definitely a threat. This kid was going to be lethal if he had the means, which we're not sure he did. But I want to hear about terrorist cells and strategies that are geared towards facing the threat that we now have in the United States,
That's
which
a great
is
point, Chris.
worse than 9/11.
Who does that come from? Is it at the top, or is it the FBI?
Well,
Where is it?
It's from the top. This is your creative thinking and initiative. 9/11 was a failure of creativity and initiative, and in this case, you have to be ahead of the problem. You know, solving the problem, or cases like this. You know, the cases like this don't really describe what's going on out there. What's going on out there is a broader threat to the United States that require a lot of initiative and a lot of proactive action on the part of the intelligence agencies. That's what I want to see.
Thanks, Chris. We'll see whether we get that or when we get that, and hopefully not too late. Chris Swecker, former FBI, thank you.